WDBFradio.com. WDBFradio.com. WDBFradio.com.
Do you own a laser printer, copier, or a fax? Well then, listen close to this announcement. Laser Technologies has been providing high-quality, frustration-free toner cartridges that are guaranteed not to harm your equipment for over 20 years. Laser Technologies will save you on your supplies with high-quality and fast delivery. Savings up to 50%. Laser Technologies supplies toner, imaging drums, developer and cartridges for most of the major brands. For a price quote, send an email to service@laser-technologies.com. Include your printer make and model for your part number. Call us at 561-792-9600. That's 561-792-9600. Laser Technologies, providing 100% of the quality at a fraction of the price. 561-792-9600.
Hi folks, I'm Roger from Rogers Gotcha Motoring. If you need a local auto repair shop, Rogers Gotcha Motoring will take care of all of your automotive repair needs. If you need something as simple as an oil change or as complex as an engine overhaul, I have the latest in technology and the knowledge to get the job done right. We've been servicing Pinellas County since 1994 and are conveniently located at 3700 5th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you need service, call now at 727-327-1830 or visit my website at www.rogersgotchamotoring.com or like my Facebook page at Rogers Gotcha Motoring for a complete list of all of our services. So come on over to Rogers, that's me, and get your car service today. And don't forget to shop and support local business. Call now to book your appointment at 727-327-1830. That's 727-327-1830, or swing on by.
K-Pasa Mexican Cantina is where friends and neighbors come to connect, share, and celebrate one another in a festive, casual atmosphere. Offering rich, robust flavors of authentic Mexican cuisine, we use only the freshest, finest ingredients. We chop and dice, season and blend, and then cook everything we serve to perfection. One thing that makes Mexican food even better is one of our delicious Best of the Bay margaritas. Our signature series of margarita flavors range from our sweet and fruity mango and strawberry to our hot and juicy jalapeno margarita. Having a busy meeting or getting together and looking for Mexican food? Try our Fast Fax form. It's an easy, fast way to order your favorite Mexican food. We have special platters and layouts for any occasion. The form is super easy to fill out, fax, email, or just call it in. Whether it's here in the restaurant, in your home or office, at K-Pasa we celebrate bringing people together. K-Pasa Mexican Cantina, 10478 Roosevelt Boulevard North Street in the Gateway Shopping Center, 727-330-3663 in St. Petersburg.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Hey, this is Captain Hook for Statewide Pest Control Services. They've been serving the west coast of Florida since 1987. Statewide does it all. Pest control, termites, lawns, mosquitoes, tent fumigations, etc. This announcement is from their mold division. Since Hurricane Charlie in 2004, all their personnel are certified in mold and moisture control. Their two-step services are guaranteed to get you back in your home quicker and in most cases paid by your insurance company. Give them a call at 877-488-7378. That's Statewide Pest Control Services for all your pest and mold control needs, serving Florida from Pasco to Lee counties. Statewide Pest Control Services, 877-488-7378. 877-488-7378. That's 877-488-7378.
You're listening to WDBFradio.com, a tune-in station.
I grab my fishing pole and cast it in the water. I fish until dawn. Oh my, I caught a shark. I'm fishing and blowing on when the sun shines all day. They call me a grouper. So fishing and blowing on. Oh yeah.
It's the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riscala Stevens, bringing the outdoors to you every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. on the WDBF Radio Network. And now, your host, Riscala Stevens.
Well, a very good morning to you out there listening, and it is indeed a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be with you this morning. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. It is the Fish Florida Show. We're coming to you from the southeastern portion of Florida, and with my co-host this morning, I normally have Pam Worth with me, and Pam is out there on the water somewhere. She'll be calling in later, kind of give us an update of what's going on with her. But who I have this morning, the one and only Captain Hook. Good morning, Captain Hook.
Good morning to all and all our many viewers out there today.
And, over here we've got, it's a beautiful day. I'm looking at the radar. We've got very little going on with regard to any shower activity. They're saying the winds are about 5 to 10 knots. Seas are less than 2 feet. Intercoastal waters are a light chop. There's a chance of showers and thunderstorms, but if you live in South Florida, you know that's just about every day we go through some kind of chance of a shower or a thunderstorm. So it is a beautiful day to get out there. If you've got a boat, it's a gorgeous day. Seas less than 2 feet at this point, so enjoy it while you can. And for those of you who are listening in or not able to listen to the entire show, we do replay the show at 3 p.m. on WDBFradio.com. We also replay it sometime early in the morning. What time is that, Captain Hook?
4 o'clock in the morning on the overnight tonight.
I just knew it was a time that I am definitely not awake. But anyway, if you find yourself awake at 4 o'clock in the morning and nothing else to do, you can always tune in, and anything that you may have missed this morning, you'll always find, again, 2 different times during the day, as well as archives. We have archives set up on the YouTube channel, which is the Fish Florida Show on YouTube, and we also have archives set up on our website, which is thefishfloridashow.com. So there's a bunch of places that you can go and find our archives, and there's several different ways you can find us live as well. For your friends, anybody who has a TuneIn app, you don't have to have the premium. There is a free version of the app. That's all it takes is the free version. You go there and you look up WDBF.FM, I believe it is. Is that right, Captain Hook?
It's either there's 2 stations. It's radio.com or WDBF.FM. If you just put in WDBF, it'll bring it up to both of them.
So that's another way that you can listen to us. So we try to make it easy for everybody to listen in, and I am currently working on an app that's going to we're going to see. We got a lot of technical stuff to overcome, but it looks like we will be able to be live on the air on the television as well. So that's something that we will be discussing later on in the upcoming shows as we get a little closer. We've got some technical issues I've got to work out, but hopefully, if all goes well, we will be simulcasting as we're on the air on the radio. Air video and audio on a special app that people can watch on their smartphones. So you'll be able to see who it is that's talking. And I don't know, I'm not too crazy about that, because right now I see I can come out here in my PJs and I can do the show and everything's cool. If we start having cameras around, I have to be a little more careful about how we dress. Maybe I'll be one of those half dressers, as they call them. You sit down behind the desk and you've got a coat. I mean, you got a coat and tie on, right, and you look real professional. But as soon as you stand up, they see that you're in your boxer shorts and your socks. That's so right. Maybe we'll do that. Anyway, that's something on down the road that we're going to discuss later on. In the meantime, we do have a lot to discuss today. We have. Of course, we always have Robert. I'm so grateful for Robert. He takes the time to call in. Robert is with the Florida Fisherman Magazine, and they're an online magazine. He always takes time to call in and share with us. He always has a lot of information for us. And then we will have as well Carolyn Stash. Carolyn is with Atlas Tracks. I like having Carolyn on because I'm a firm believer, if you've worked hard, and most of us have, to get what we have, we want to keep it and do what we can in order to be able to hold on to that. And Atlas Tracks is one of the ways you can do that. One of the other guests will be John Heim. I've had John Heim on several times. John is with the Clean Water Movement. We're going to have a quick discussion. I say quick because we could spend the entire show on this subject, and it is a very important subject. But I know people's attention span kind of dies out after a few minutes, so we're not going to do that. But we are going to have a quick discussion about what's going on with the water, with the algae, with the red tide. Then I will have Mitchell Roffer on. Mitchell is a marine biologist. I thought it would be important for people to know what is going on chemically, if that's the correct word, microbiology, I can't even think of the word, for us to have a better understanding of what's going on. So when we're presented with solutions by these politicians that we have some degree of knowledge, I can tell you straight up, some of these people want to get it out of sight, out of memory, it's taken care of. That's not the solution to this problem. We need to have a long-term solution, and in order for us to be able to do that, I believe we need to have some knowledge about what is going on. And if you listen to the television, they're not going into the specifics about what is going on. They're just saying it's a red tide, which it is, and then it's having a massive fish kill, which it is. But that's not accurate. That's not the whole story. There's more to it than that. Hopefully Mitchell will be able to give us a little better insight as to what's going on. So when we hear proposed solutions to what is going on, we will be in a better place to make a decision. Yes, we'll go with that. No, we won't go with that. So we'll be discussing that as well. Pam Worth, who is the one and only Pam Worth, is normally here with me in the morning. This morning she's out on the water. She's doing some fishing. She's going to be doing a tournament, and she's kind of checking out the waters. She'll be calling in later and kind of giving us a report right off of the water, right literally at the water's edge. And then, of course, we'll have Andy Sikora at the very end. Andy is with Dockside Service, one-of-a-kind service that I'm aware of that comes out to where you are and happy to fuel your vessel for you if you're down there in the Keys. So we've got quite a bit of a lineup going on today. Captain Hook, what's it look like over there where you're at? On the radar, it looks like everything is nice and clean all around the southern part of the state.
So far, so good. It's going to be very hot over here today, and very little chance of rain, and the wind is very still. So it's over and all a good day if you can take the heat.
Yeah, I don't know how I did it when I was a kid, and you're in my age group, so I'm sure you can relate to this. Growing up, we didn't spend time inside playing video games or didn't have smart devices to keep us busy. We literally went outside from the time the sun went up until the sun came down. I don't know how we stayed outside all that time and didn't die of heat exhaustion, I'll tell you.
Well, you can take it when you're younger, but I know as I'm getting older, I have a really hard time. I had a big trip this week where we ran a boat for 3 hours, and I'm at the end of the day, and we parked it in the marina. I'm telling you, I was cooked. Mm-hmm.
Well, so do we have Robert on? Yeah, it looks like we have Robert is on with us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Robert. Mm-hmm.
How is everybody?
Well, we're still above ground, so it's another good day.
I heard Captain Hook talking about the heat, and we were out yesterday, and it was hot. It was hot, and like he said, there was no breeze. But the ocean was nice and calm, so that's a good thing.
It looks like it's going to be relatively calm today. Less than 2 feet is what they're calling for.
Yep, and red snapper season on the East Coast, which we hadn't had in a while, was a huge success, and that was good.
And that's over now, correct?
Yeah. We only had 6 days, so that was it.
Right. Yeah, I heard everybody was doing really well over there, and there were really good sized ones too.
Well, they were, and it's it's been happening for years. We've been catching them and having to release them because we couldn't keep them. So the population had gotten pretty big over here, and it's a good thing that they did what they did. So.
Yep. So a bit of conservation we can literally see paying off.
Absolutely. And speaking of conservation, snook season's coming up here September 1st. Please, everybody, keep in mind the amount of snook that were killed this year when you're snook fishing. If you don't need them, please don't keep them. But I know everybody, they sure are tasty, so I'm sure everybody needs to keep a couple, but we don't need to go out every day and see how many we can get and keep them all. So,
Yeah, and with the red tide over here too, they've wiped out. They've taken another real bad hit too.
Yeah, I know. I heard about that, and thank God it appears to be dissipating some. The red tide
Yep,
it seems to be backing off a little bit.
Yeah,
and I heard you're going to have John Heim on when you were talking, and
yep.
In talking to Brian Mast, he said, everybody has to understand that there has to be short-term ways of dealing with this because the long-term stuff is going to take years to accomplish. So, when you're talking with John Heim, ask him, one of the things that Brian Mass brought up was the water levels in Lake Okeechobee and why during the dry season they're kept so high. So that needs to be addressed, and as do many other things. So
doesn't that seem like common sense to you? It's just a common sense.
Well, it does, but after I had that conversation with him, and he explained to me the conversation that he had with the Army Corps of Engineers, as to them supplying water to the Palm Beaches and all that, and he said, well, he stepped them all the way down to like 4 or 5 feet, and they said, no, even at 4 or 5 feet, we'd still be supplying water to the Palm Beaches. And he said, well, then why the hell are we keep it at 13 feet?
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. And I think
when the rain's coming. So
I think at some point we need to treat the water itself in the lake. Just the water literally in the lake needs to be treated. Before all of the runoff.
Well, it does, and that's actually part of the long-term solution is they're going to have to run it off into that new reservoir they're going to build and treat it before they release it into the Everglades, or else they're going to create another problem. So
it amazes me. It does. And so we'll be talking more about this later on in the show. If you're listening, Robert, feel free to call in if you have a comment or something. And by the way, while I'm thinking about it, we are monitoring the website. So if you're online, listening to us online, you can go to the website, www.fishfloridashow.com. You'll see there's a chat box that'll pop up. If you have a question or a comment, you can put it in there. We'll pick it up and we'll announce it on the air. But Robert, if you...
That's a good thing for everyone to know. Yeah. Why don't you repeat that again for everybody, if you would?
Yeah, we monitor the website. The website is www.fishfloridashow.com. When you go to the website, you will see there is a chat box that will pop up, and it says live. That means we're actually monitoring that, and there's a small chat box there. You can put in a question, a comment, and that will come directly to me, and I will be able to announce it on the air if you want me to announce it on the air.
There you go. That's a good thing for everybody. It'd be great to have some more participation. That would be good.
One of the things that I believe in totally is relationships. To build relationships where both sides of the party are benefiting. And this is one of the ways that we try to do that. We want to have interesting stuff for the listeners. I don't ever pretend to be that I'm a professional. I have the professionals call in. I leave that to them. I'm just somebody who learns. I learned, when you mentioned snook, I was going to say, and those of you who may not know, because I didn't know, I was ignorant. You catch a snook and you're going to release it, don't hold it the traditional way that people hold fish. You're going to kill it. You have to hold the fish as the same manner that it would be floating in the water. You can't hold it up and down like when I never knew that.
They need to be kept, especially the bigger ones, they need to be kept horizontal. Vertical is bad because their insides settle down. The same when you see people handling tarpon. Especially tarpon, because they're so big, don't grab them by the lip and hold them straight up. It's bad for the fish.
Never occurred to me. Never ever occurred. And I've been fishing all my life. But again, this is why I love doing this show. I'm always learning. So I don't pretend to be professional. I don't pretend for a moment to know everything that there is to know. But I will tell you without question in my mind, I'm always learning from the people who come on.
Well, and since you brought that up, and I have a pet peeve, if you're going to take your picture with a sailfish, first of all, keep them horizontal and get them back in the water as quickly as possible. You're not supposed to actually bring them out. You're supposed to take your picture over the side of the boat, but if you're going to bring them out, which everybody does, me included, get them in and get them out as quickly as possible.
I think more and more we're going to have to look at conservation as a very high priority. That's going to happen on the West Coast, but instead of waiting for it to happen here on the East Coast, we do our part. Each one of us does our part. Like the tournament that I have, Lisa Fitzgerald comes on the tournament. I love that they have this component of the tournament where you pick up trash and then you might win something. That's phenomenal. Who else has ever done anything like that?
That's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Those kind of things, I love promoting those kind of things because to me, it's everybody. Again, we go back to who wins. Everybody wins. You win. You may win a prize for cleaning up. I know it'll make you feel good if you're out there on the water and you see trash floating around and you pick it up. Even if you don't win anything, you win per se because you know you'll feel good because you know whatever that little bit that you did helps. And if everybody does that, my goodness, we can make a tremendous change very quickly.
Well, that's true. We've got the new issue of the magazine will be out on Monday, and Lindsay Savelli wrote a great article about the situation with the river and the trash and all of those things, just in general, as to our maintenance of how we keep our rivers and how we keep our waters. And it's a good article. I hope everybody reads it. And she's a great person to write about this stuff. She and her husband traveled all around the country for almost a year, I guess, fishing everywhere. And she's familiar with, the water, how the water should be kept and, picking up your trash and all of that stuff. And, she's got some great pictures she sent in there of actually toilets floating up on, sitting on beaches. And it's terrible, wow. Some of the things that people just, we'll just throw it over here,
Wow.
It's,
Robert, I wasn't tracking the time and I apologize to cut you off, but I'm completely out of time and I've got to take a break. I want to thank you for taking the time to call in. The Florida Fisherman Magazine, you can find him online, Robert Warner. Thank you, Robert.
You guys have a great day.
You're listening to the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riskella. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Do you own a laser printer, copier, or a fax? Well then, listen close to this announcement. Laser Technologies has been providing high-quality, frustration-free toner cartridges that are guaranteed not to harm your equipment for over 20 years. Laser Technologies will save you on your supplies with high quality and fast delivery. Savings up to 50%. Laser Technologies supplies toner, imaging drums, developer and cartridges for most of the major brands. For a price quote, send an email to service@laser-technologies.com. Include your printer make and model for your part number. Call us at 561-792-9600. That's 561-792-9600. Laser Technologies, providing 100% of the quality at a fraction of the price. 561-792-9600.
Hi folks, I'm Roger from Roger's Gotcha Motoring. If you need a local auto repair shop, Roger's Gotcha Motoring will take care of all of your automotive repair needs. If you need something as simple as an oil change or as complex as an engine overhaul, I have the latest in technology and the knowledge to get the job done right. We've been servicing Pinellas County since 1994 and are conveniently located at 3700 5th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you need service, call now at 727-327-1830 or visit my website at www.rogersgotchamotoring.com or like my Facebook page at Rogers Gotcha Motoring for a complete list of all of our services. So come on over to Rogers, that's me, and get your car service today. And don't forget to shop and support local business. Call now to book your appointment at 727-327-1830. That's 727-327-1830. Or swing on by.
Que Pasa Mexican Cantina is where friends and neighbors come to connect, share, and celebrate one another in a festive, casual atmosphere. Offering rich, robust flavors of authentic Mexican cuisine, we use only the freshest, finest ingredients. We chop and dice, season and blend, and then cook everything we serve to perfection. One thing that makes Mexican food even better is one of our delicious Best of the Bay margaritas. Our signature series of margarita flavors range from our sweet and fruity mango and strawberry to our hot and juicy jalapeno margarita. Having a busy meeting or getting together and looking for Mexican food? Try our Fast Fax form. It's an easy, fast way to order your favorite Mexican food. We have special platters and layouts for any occasion. The form is super easy to fill out, fax, email, or just call it in. Whether it's here in the restaurant, in your home or office, at Que Pasa we celebrate bringing people together. Que Pasa Mexican Cantina, 10478 Roosevelt Boulevard North Street in the Gateway Shopping Center, 727-330-3663 in St. Petersburg. It's the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riscala Stevens, bringing the outdoors to you every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. on the WDBF Radio Network. And now, your host, Riscala Stevens.
Well, a good morning to you if you're just tuning in. It is the Fish Florida Show. It's an honor and privilege to have you with me. And we are looking at a gorgeous day here in South Florida. As I look at the radar, we little to none out there. And the forecast for the day, of course, here in South Florida, we have, I call it two seasons. We have season number 1, which is hot. And then we have season number 2, which is hotter. And we're approaching the hotter season right now. Right now, it's about 84 degrees outside, believe it or not. They tell me that it feels closer to 90 degrees. And we have visibility is very clear. We got about 10 miles worth of visibility out there. Wind is 7 miles per hour. This is coming out of the West Palm Beach area, by the way. Humidity at 81%. And looking like a really beautiful day. According to the radar that I'm looking at, very little activity going on with regard to any thunderstorms or some showers. Few showers offshore. And that pretty much covers us on the East Coast. And on the West Coast, we have the one and only Captain Hook. Good morning, Captain Hook.
Good morning to all. Yeah, well, over here on the West Coast, it looks like we're going to have another hot day. It felt like 100 degrees out here yesterday. Very little wind, and so far, no big clouds forming. So it looks like if you've got the stamina to be out there in this heat, how at it.
Well, I tell you what, it's one of the things that I so much enjoy about being here is the sunshine. Get out there and enjoy it. I have a farmer's tan, believe it or not. If I take my shirt off, my neck is nice and tan, my face is nice and tan. From my about my elbows down is nice and tan, but take shirt off, everything else is white.
Yep.
But
sunglasses.
I enjoy getting out there and just doing all kinds of activities. One of the ones I do the most now is since I've adopted this dog who has, I don't know who rescued who here, but I've been out there walking with him. Typically we walk an hour, about 3.5 miles, and it's usually in the morning time. And so I catch my son in the morning, then I get him put away for the day, and I go out and do my service calls. And again, I'm out on the road, and so I'm out there in that sun. And I had one of my kids said something to me the other day. And they said, "Dad, I can't believe how white you are up under your shirt." Because of the drastic difference. There's a big difference between what's exposed and what isn't exposed. Just goes to show you what happens when you're out there day in and day out. So we have so many things that we can do, whether that is in a kayak, which we'll be hearing from the kayak queen later. She's out there on she's out there on the water somewhere doing something. Of course, I'm talking about Pam Worth. And you could be in a kayak, you could be in a jet ski, you could be in a boat, you could be in a yacht. You might even be in a plane. What are you doing to protect the investment that you have? My next guest is going to give us some information about how you can buy a little more peace of mind, if you will. Have the opportunity to know at any given time what that investment, where that investment is, and if it's being moved, if it's not being moved, if it's being messed with in any way. And of course, I'm talking about the one and only Atlas Tracks. And Atlas Tracks, we have Carolyn, who represents Atlas Tracks and been doing this for a while, and she's going to give us some information this morning. Share with us what you posted about the yacht that came over, how the individual who owned this yacht was able to track the yacht from, I think it was Bimini, you correct me, but it was from somewhere coming into the East Coast. You determined how long it took, you determined how much fuel it was amazing, all the information that you got.
Well, good morning, gentlemen. Absolutely. This is a client that actually has a couple boats that are out in really a lot farther out in Exumas. He has 2 trackers on his 2 vessels and our Atlas alarm, which allows him to tether both of the boats together with a 60-foot cable. So what the owner was actually doing was self-running his boat all the way from Exumas, popped into Nassau one night, went from Nassau to Bimini, and then Bimini into Fort Lauderdale. And his whole family and his office was able to watch him move that boat along that long 3-day trek, make sure he was getting into the ports, seeing what the fuel, how many hours he was running, was he in there okay, what was his speed. So they were able to figure out when he was going to get back to Fort Lauderdale to get that boat in the yard for a brand new refit. But, you think with tracking devices, it's normally about theft. And This is a perfect example of a flow plan of a gentleman taking a boat that big by himself. It was over 100-foot motor yacht. So that was kind of cool. We posted it up yesterday with his permission, but it's another use for a tracker. If somebody's out doing a long fishing trip and they're even a day trip, so I just looked at the radar myself and the sea conditions, and somebody goes out, they want to stay out for that last weed line they found, and they're overdue. Instead of the family getting worried and, not reaching them on the cell phone, they can just log on a map and see exactly where the boat might be. So it's a real good use for a tracking system that people don't even usually think about.
I found it very interesting how you could, correct me if I'm wrong, but you determine how much fuel the vessel used?
Well, here's what's really interesting, and they actually figured that out themselves, that they determine what they burn at what particular speed, and they know what speed and how many hours they've moved the boat that day. They know the fuel consumption, and why it's important to that big boat is it's a charter business. So if a customer says, Riscali, hey, we didn't use the boat today, or we didn't go that far, or we didn't do this, they can just simply print out the similar maps like I sent you, show the customer, well, yes, on this day you went this far, and this is our average fuel consumption, to make sure that they get paid for their fuel charge on those charters. So whether the boat's a 100-footer or a sport fish, it's a really good tool to use just for backup on invoicing. It's something that they totally came up with.
I thought that was amazing that, from here you are using satellite technology to determine data that I never even thought of. And correct me again if I'm wrong, but God forbid if somebody the wrong hands get on behind the steering wheel of this thing and they take off with it, you can find it within, 4 feet?
Yeah, I have every 10 minutes that boat or whatever that tracker's on is getting tracked every 10 minutes for typically a boat. And you can find it. And even now that we're doing general aviation aircraft, let's say you have a situation where somebody's doing a little fly up the coast at low altitude, usually below regular radar, air traffic control radar, family or friends can also keep an eye on the aircraft using the same exact tracker now. So that's a little bit of peace of mind. Like if you look at these planes that are flying banners that are low speed, low altitude, how many times does that guy get paid per pass going up and down the beach? Well, now that operator can say, well, you went 15 times up and down the beach. So people are using our trackers now for more reporting in addition to the theft recovery, which is, blatant around here. If you look on any website or stolen boat website, you're seeing something stolen, any size. It doesn't matter now. So the recovery part's real important, but the safety and theft, the safety part of it, especially in the summer when people are taking boats, and there's some boat owners that don't really know how to safely operate their boat. It's just one more thing for us to have with your EPIRBs and your flares and something else.
I think it's peace of mind. To me, it's just peace of mind. Am I right? You can, if God forbid somebody takes off with it, you can track it within 4 feet. Is that right? The number's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. When that tracker stops for 5 minutes, it goes back to at rest, and the map that you're going to see is the last location. So whether it be floating in the Gulf Stream, in somebody's backyard, at a dock ramp, in a building, you're going to see that location. But remember, you're going to see it as it's going wherever it's going. So if somebody's stolen it and it's on a highway, you're going to see that every 10 minutes where he is. Is he gassed up, getting fuel in it? What is he doing? And then you send law enforcement to apprehend it at a safe time. But that could be over land or water or wherever it might be. Even construction equipment. We have people putting them on construction equipment that they leave out on a job site for a period of time. So it's very, very versatile for the theft and also production. Hey, when did that guy drive around that digger on that lot? I mean, how many hours did that piece of equipment move? And now you can build a construction customer on that to say, we started a compressor for 6 hours. So, we're really moving along into how to make things more productive. But the boating and safety and theft is all number one in our mind here.
And a different aspect of this, you were sharing with me, you went out yesterday with some friends, right? Went fishing yesterday or checking a boat or something?
Yeah, what happened was that I had a couple new girlfriends invite me to go for a boat ride yesterday, but I was unaware that I was becoming the captain. So when I got to their house, they're like, you know how to drive, right? And I ended up taking 4 girls out in a 23-foot cobia, single-engine boat. And, we kind of did a little boat handling practice and looked out the inlet and thought it was a little sloppy. And All the girls pitched in, getting the boat back to the dock and flushing the engines. But, it's a new experience. There would have been 4 girls going out not really knowing what to do. So, we gave them, I brought a tracker with me. We gave them a little safety and spent a little time with them, made them feel more comfortable. But, I was definitely the captain du jour, unknowingly.
So again, another aspect, you've got kids. I think about this story that happened, I think it's been a couple of years now. A couple of young kids, all their lives, I think they were teenagers, their whole life they grew up on the water. They knew all about the water. They had a small skiff. They went out of Jupiter Inlet here, I think, on the East Coast. And the boat was found sometime later. I don't know if they ever recovered the bodies or not. But had they had something like Atlas tracks with them, someone would have been able to know something has gone wrong right away. And I believe that their lives very possibly could have been saved. So what I'm saying to you is that you cannot, what's the way to put it? This is not just for a piece of equipment. You can actually, these things are small enough, not all of them, but she has a version of it that's small enough you can, correct me if I'm wrong, Carolyn, but you can slip this thing in your back pocket. So you'll know. You'll know.
Absolutely. The one I took yesterday was only 3 inches by 2 inches. I grabbed it in my beach bag. I had it right on the boat, and it tracked exactly where we went up to Delray Beach, turned around and came back. But absolutely, if somebody's getting emails within 10 minutes, because that's normally what it reports. So if you've got a child that's out, and every 10 minutes you're getting an email with a link to a map, you can look and say, he wasn't supposed to be in Pompano Beach. He's supposed to be in Delray Beach. Call the person and say, okay, time to, get a little closer to home. You're a little further than what you're supposed to be. So they're getting notifications every 10 minutes. It's not like you have to wonder where they are and then log on a map and find them. You're seeing as they're moving up the intercoastal or offshore or down the road. So 100%. I throw them in my back pocket, my ditch bag. They're waterproof, so you don't have to worry about, getting splashed on. But it's a part of, I take mine everywhere I go. I don't even care if I'm getting in the car. I always have one with me.
That is, and I think one of the worst thoughts to have in your mind, one of the worst thoughts to have is, this can't happen to me. Tell them it can't happen to you, Captain Hook.
Yeah, well, just many years ago, back in 1975, we got off work. We were all working at the airport. My aviation career was just starting, and 7 of us, we left and we went offshore at in an old Broadwater, 26-foot Broadwater. It was a plywood boat. And we went out of Port Everglades and we were going to go into Hillsborough Inlet. And somewhere, I think we hit either a loggerhead turtle or a piece of wood in the water. And it ripped a plank out of the bottom of the boat. The boat went down in 2 minutes. And we had no chance. Well, it rolled over and kind of stayed on the surface. And being a licensed captain at the time, I was always told to stay with the wreckage but nobody knew we were out there. And this is the point that I'm going to make is, let somebody know what your float plan is. Always tell somebody where you're going and what you're doing, so at least they know where to start looking for you. But if we had one of these Atlas tracks, it'd been no problem. But it wouldn't have helped us because we never made a float plan to start with. Nobody would even know to even check it. And that's the problem. The two have to go hand in hand.
I have to back you up for 1 second too. Any Atlas Tracks customer, and they can do this by calling me or registering on our website. You can register your flow plan with us. It gets emailed to us, one of us immediately, and then we actually add ourselves to your account, and we make sure you have safe passage over to the Gulf Stream or wherever you're supposed to be.
Wow.
And nobody does that. And, I think right now I'm following just today 3 float plans, people coming back. Hey, we're going to Bimini. We're coming back on Sunday. Hey, I'm going out, 100 miles offshore with Cape Canaveral. But just they want an extra set of eyes, even though they can log on the maps at home. They want that extra peace of mind to know I'm watching them or someone from my team's watching them. And you can't even do that really with Coast Guard and have real access to somebody finding you, which is great.
Absolutely. But to finish the story, we sank and we swam. 2 of us, or 7 of us, 2 of us made it to shore after about 4.5 hours later. And the rest of the guys were dying by the time the Coast Guard found. But we got to shore, called the Coast Guard. They brought out 2 C-130s and a patrol boat, and they started putting flares all over the place out there, and they found our guys. Thank God nobody lost their life, but it was just a miracle that nobody passed away that night.
It really is. That's not the usual outcome. The usual outcome is a very, very sad outcome because you're literally looking for a needle in a haystack out there. It's difficult to see anybody floating in the water unless they have something very bright or a flare gun or something of that nature. It's doggone near impossible to find somebody who's floating around out there.
Yeah, and even we had flares and ships going by, planes going by. We were shooting off flares. Nobody noticed it. It was
wow. Well, I see that.
And you don't have a chance to get on a PFD in a lot of situations too. So now you're treading water, and it's just I can't imagine what you went through.
Well, we did manage to get the life jackets out. That's about the only thing that saved us. But still, it was a cool night, offshore breeze, and just the exposure in the water for that length of time is enough to kill you.
Well,
sure. Well, we just wanted to, we appreciate you having us back on, and, remember our alarm systems too, that if you're sitting in a driveway with a trailer or any kind of enclosed trailer or even a boat in a driveway, there's other alternatives for deterrence too. So it's all about protecting your assets.
And you can find her at Atlas Tracks, TRAX.com, atlastracks.com. Carolyn, thank you. I'm out of time. I'm sorry. Got to take a break.
Have a great day, gentlemen.
You're listening to the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riskella. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Download the Fish Florida mobile app to plan your boating, fishing, or hunting trip. You can find your tide reports, buoy reports, get a fishing license, and even find someone to go fishing with. Plus great products and services from all our media partners. And oh yeah, you can get the Fish Florida Show on the app. Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern here on the WDBF radio networks. So download the Fish Florida mobile app to plan your boating, fishing, or hunting trip and tune in.
Battles aren't won solely on the field. That's a common misconception. Battles are won within. Over enemies of fear, enemies of doubt. In that place where promises are kept. Promises to oneself.
This is a physical training event.
Promises to one's community.
Helping people move debris out of their house.
Promises to one's country. In the heart of every Marine, you'll find a promise. A promise forever kept. A promise of battles won.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket.
Hit
ignition. And then
nothing. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Then out of nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
The rocket did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite.
Look out! Look out!
And then the pond.
I'll never forget that day.
I'll never forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer, because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
My vehicle was sent 6 feet in the air in a ball of fire. I thought I was going to die.
It ripped my arm off. It broke my right femur.
I took such a hard blow to the head that my retina was torn apart.
Say a prayer for peace.
I'm Trace Adkins. I want to tell you about these true American heroes and how you can show your thanks by helping them through Wounded Warrior Project.
They've reached out to us as a family, and they never forgot about us.
The job of helping thousands of our wounded warriors rebuild their lives is massive and growing every day. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Many of these service members suffer traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder.
They helped me basically put my life back together.
If it wasn't for Wounded Warrior Project, I would be a statistic right now. I would have been one of those soldiers who came home and committed suicide.
I'm in the fields of Vietnam, the mountains of Afghanistan.
Your gift today of $19 a month can help us provide the programs and services desperately needed by our wounded service members. Call or go online with a pledge and you'll receive this Wounded Warrior Project blanket. Make that call now.
Say a prayer for peace. I grab my fishing pole and cast it in the water. I fish until dawn. Oh my, I caught a shark. I'm fishing and blowing on when the sun shines all day. They call me a grouper. Stop fishing and blowing on. Oh yeah.
It's the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riscala Stevens, bringing the outdoors to you every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. on the WDBF Radio Network. And now your host, Riscala Stevens.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you. Thank you. I genuinely mean that. Thank you for taking the time to tune in and allowing us to entertain you as best as we can. And normally I have Pam Worth, who is one of the top female kayak anglers, with me as a co-host. She is literally out on the water today. She'll be calling in a little while and giving us a quick fishing report and what she's seeing out there where she's at. But as always, I have the one and only Captain Hook, and thank you so much, Captain Hook, for stepping in and being the producer and doing all that good stuff that you do in the background.
My pleasure. It's a lot of fun.
So my next guest is, we briefly talked about this morning, what's going on with the water, particularly on the West Coast. A massive fish kill is going on. Hundreds of tons of fish being cleaned up off of the shoreline. My next guest, John Heim, he is an outspoken activist about what is going on, and he has a bit of information I wanted him to come on and share with us today. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're doing okay, my friend. I wanted you to have the opportunity to come back on and tell us, give us an update, what is happening with regard to, as they claim, the, quote, red tide.
Okay, so the red tide bloom now stretches from, upward towards Tampa, all the way down past Marco Island. It's completely been exacerbated by the Lake Okeechobee discharges with high nutrient levels and phosphorus. It's actually acting as gasoline to it. So the bloom is spreading every day.
And with the spreading, we're not talking about just water. Is that correct? We're also talking about the air.
Yeah, I live right here on Fort Myers Beach, ground zero of it. I've been talking with health experts, personally went to the doctor myself. What we're looking at here is not only water toxic, but the sand is toxic and the air is toxic. Right for where I'm talking to you, the toxicities in the air travel from 1 mile all the way up 10 miles in length to 20 miles in length now from where I'm at. So imagine as soon as the wave crashes, it becomes airborne and it's traveled. So now we're at the point where we're in complete fallout, as a community. So we want to supersede our state, supersede our federal government. The CDC has not been here, so we would like to have the World Health Organization come in here and test our air, our sand, and our water.
John, just for giggles, let's say that happens, and let's say they say it's unacceptable. Who are we going to point the finger at? Who is responsible for, as far as you know? I understand this is your opinion, but you've done a lot of research and you've spoken to a lot of people. Who, in your opinion, ultimately is responsible for this?
Well, this is without question the state. The state has blood in their hands. We're talking about the governor, Rick Scott, who is the only person who can appoint the board of the South Florida Water Management District. It says it right there in their name, water management. Every time you see, dead fish or impaired waters or blue-green algae, cyanobacteria, this spells mismanagement. That's who you want to point the finger at.
And you said something interesting, a point. So these people who are responsible for what is happening have not been voted into office. They've been appointed to office. Is that correct?
Correct. You can imagine it goes this way. The governor, once elected, he handpicks who's going to be on the South Florida Water Management District, and they are basically governed by no one other than themselves. They're just simply appointed by the governor. So they have no government agency looking over them. They have, their own loose gang on the board who is, affiliated with agricultural giants such as sugar. So that tells you right away that the two are working hand in hand.
John,
basically like a loose band of bandits with no authority or overseeing by any state, federal government that is in control of our water, supply and flow. And, to have people in charge of our water supply and have absolutely no accountability to it. That's what we're talking about.
As a private citizen, what can the average private citizen do in order to bring attention? I don't think enough attention has been brought to this. I may be wrong, but from my perspective, we're not talking about this as much as we should be, number one. Number two, who do we write? Do we complain to the governor? Do we complain to the South Florida Water Management District? Where do we focus?
Yes, all of the above. You cannot send enough emails and letters and calls to these people. The reality is when you speak to these folks, you want to be specific. Like one, for example, is they need to reinstate the harmful algae task force, and that couldn't be any more prevalent. These are the people that have taken that away from us, and, we demand that, task force be reinstated. That's what people can do as well. The reality is an election's coming up. Get knowledgeable about who are clean water candidates and who are not. And we have a chance here with the election as a start to change it all around. Imagine if you got the right governor in there just by voting. That means that governor now has the opportunity to restructure the whole board of the South Florida Water Management District, and it could actually start to go in the right direction via voting.
And do we know, John, do you know which candidates are coming up who might be a little bit more friendly to this?
What I ask people to do is visit the South Florida Clean Water Movement site, and we have actual cheat sheets of every county in Florida of who you should be voting for.
There you go.
Okay, so say that again, John. Where do they go?
They go to the South Florida Clean Water Movement Facebook page, join, and you'll be able to see the posts that are very easily to obtain and view, and it basically gives you the rundown of who to vote for and who not to vote for.
John, I got a personal question. I got a personal question for you down there. How is everybody? Does it seem to be improving at all down there from what it was? I know it was really horrific there a couple of weeks ago, but does it seem to be getting any better?
Well, let's put it this way. The contractors have come in for cleanup. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a two thing. Okay, so imagine they're up out there before the sun rises with tractors and such like that, sweeping the beach clean of all the dead sea life for a presentation of tourism. Okay, so that's fine, but what about when the next tide rolls in with more dead fish?
Right.
And so it may look good for periods of time, But the reality is the ecological disaster is still right out there by the swimming buoy. So we're talking about 50 yards away from the shore. Depending on which way the wind blows and the currents go, it comes back in. And it being so close to shore, that's where it becomes airborne and such like that. What we're talking about here is, clean up, sure, but the problem still exists out there, and it's not going away. So my equivalent to, the question and what's going on here, basically what we're looking at is, an institution, which is our county government, who was allocated through the state hundreds of thousands of dollars for cleanup. They're basically shoveling in a blizzard.
Wow. Well, I have someone who knows you who's going to call in. I guess they're going to, they have a comment or a question for you. Let's see if we can get them on the line with us.
Yeah, they're with us now.
You're on the line and you are live with John Hein.
Yes.
Go ahead,
please.
Hi, this is Ellie Decker, and I wholly back up what John Hein is saying. I agree with him. And I am very concerned about Lake Okeechobee releasing water into the Cohassee River. Of course, the Army Corps of Engineers has to, do flood control, but the quality of the water is terrible, and the South Florida Water Management District needs to buy the land. They've got some people on the board that are kind of blocking that because they're worried about county taxes for those landowners. But we do need to buy the land and get that water sent south. We need more reservoirs. We need more cleaning. They cannot continue to do this. It is feeding and growing red tide. I have all kinds of science here from Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, from NOAA. This cyanobacteria, phosphorus, and nitrogen are growing our known Carinea brevis red tide. Yes, it starts naturally, but we are putting it on steroids. We're giving it Miracle Grow.
Yep.
They've got to clean that up.
Yep.
People have got to vote.
Go ahead.
And if I can jump in. And if I can jump into that. Mm-hmm. Hey, how are you? If I can jump into that, if I may. Sure. Like the young lady had said, we have to buy the land. But what the general public is not educated on presently is, first of all, the South Florida, South Florida Water Management District is not the people who would be able to buy the land. It is the state of Florida. Number two, the option's completely off the table. We're not to be able to buy the land when the willing seller no longer has a contract. That would be U.S. Sugar. Then you go to the next step to say, okay, they won't sell it. We're going to take it through eminent domain.
Right.
They've seen such panic happen over the last month and a half that the government and, the sugar industry got together and they took eminent domain off the table in the middle of the night while we were all sleeping and changed the law.
That's terrible, because those brevotoxins that happen when red tide is crashed by the waves is making the air toxic in Inglewood. My old elderly neighbors cannot even sit on their lanai. They can smell it inside of their condos with the doors shut. The children cannot go outside and play without having coughing fits. And this is along the coast, and I know the river's just as bad. We've all seen those pictures of the green algae. People need to be taking this seriously and looking at this. We're destroying what is healthy food. Fish is healthy food. Sugar is not healthy food and should not even be classified as agriculture.
And if I may jump in?
Go ahead, John. Sure.
Yeah, please. You're also talking about, sending the water south, okay, and all these great plans to build a reservoir south of the lake to send water finally, through to the Everglades. But the reality, what people are not understanding is that's not going to happen, because the government, state and federal level, fully admits, even with the, construction of Senate Bill 10, the Reservoir South, they cannot meet the Miccosukee tribe's water quality standards at 10 parts per billion.
Well,
so
John,
this
may
is
I
all for
jump
nothing.
in real quick? Let me jump in there on the tribe.
I'm sorry. I got to interrupt both of you because I am up against a break. John, I want to thank you. I think, John, you and I should do an entire show on this. We'll pre-record it, and then if WDBF Radio wants to carry it, they can. I will get with you shortly, and we'll see if we can do an entire show on this because I don't think we spent enough time on it. And to the young lady, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but I've got to take this break. We'll be right back.
It's Ellie Decker. It's okay. Okay.
You're
John,
listening to the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riskella. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
WDBFradio.com. WDBFradio.com.
WDBFradio.com. Do you own a laser printer, copier, or a fax? Well then, listen close to this announcement. Laser Technologies has been providing high-quality, frustration-free toner cartridges that are guaranteed not to harm your equipment for over 20 years. Laser Technologies will save you on your supplies with high-quality and fast delivery. Savings up to 50%. Laser Technologies supplies toner, imaging drums, developer and cartridges for most of the major brands. For a price quote, send an email to service@laser-technologies.com. Include your printer make and model for your part number. Call us at 561-792-9600. That's 561-792-9600. Laser Technologies, providing 100% of the quality at a fraction of the price. 561-792-9600.
Hi folks, I'm Roger from Rogers Gotcha Motoring. If you need a local auto repair shop, Rogers Gotcha Motoring will take care of all of your automotive repair needs. If you need something as simple as an oil change or as complex as an engine overhaul, I have the latest in technology and the knowledge to get the job done right. We've been servicing Pinellas County since 1994 and are conveniently located at 3700 5th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you need service, call now at 727-327-1830 or visit my website at www.rogersgotchamotoring.com or like my Facebook page at Rogers Gotcha Motoring for a complete list of all of our services. So come on over to Rogers, that's me, and get your car service today. And don't forget to shop and support local business. Call now to book your appointment at 727-327-1830. That's 727-327-1830, or swing on by.
Que Pasa Mexican Cantina is where friends and neighbors come to connect, share, and celebrate one another in a festive, casual atmosphere. Offering rich, robust flavors of authentic Mexican cuisine, we use only the freshest, finest ingredients. We chop and dice, season and blend, and then cook everything we serve to perfection. One thing that makes Mexican food even better is one of our delicious Best of the Bay margaritas. Our signature series of margarita flavors range from our sweet and fruity mango and strawberry to our hot and juicy jalapeno margarita. Having a busy meeting or getting together and looking for Mexican food? Try our Fast Fax form. It's an easy, fast way to order your favorite Mexican food. We have special platters and layouts for any occasion. The form is super easy to fill out, fax, email, or just call it in. Whether it's here in the restaurant, in your home or office, at Que Pasa we celebrate bringing people together. Que Pasa Mexican Cantina, 10478 Roosevelt Boulevard North Street in the Gateway Shopping Center, 727-330-3663 in St. Petersburg.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Hey, this is Captain Hook for Statewide Pest Control Services. They've been serving the west coast of Florida since 1987. Statewide does it all. Pest control, termites, lawns, mosquitoes, tent fumigations, etc. This announcement is from their mold division. Since Hurricane Charlie in 2004, all their personnel are certified in mold and moisture control. Their two-step services are guaranteed to get you back in your home quicker and in most cases paid by your insurance company. Give them a call at 877-488-7378. That's Statewide Pest Control Services for all your pest and mold control needs, serving Florida from Pasco to Lee counties. Statewide Pest Control Services, 877-488-7378. 877-488-7378. That's 877-488-7378. You're listening to WDBFradio.com, a tune-in station.
I grab my fishing pole and cast it in the water. I fish until dawn. Oh my, I caught a shark. I'm fishing and blowing on when the sun shines all day. It's called me a grouper. Stop fishing and blowing on. Oh yeah.
It's the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riscala Stevens, bringing the outdoors to you every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. on the WDBF Radio Network. And now, your host, Riscala Stevens.
Right, and good morning to you. If you're just tuning in and you've missed part of this show, you can always tune in again at 3 p.m. We do replay the show every Sunday at 3 p.m. And again, if you're one of those early birds that you find yourself awake at 4 o'clock in the morning, you can listen to the show again there as well. We also have archives set up for you so that anytime you want to listen to the show, you can go online, thefishfloridashow.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel, again, Fish Florida Show. You can find the archives there. So anything that you've missed that you want to, or something that you've heard that you didn't, you want to hear again, you can always do that as well. This morning I have with me, my co-host is the one and only Captain Hook. Good morning, Captain Hook.
Good morning to all.
And, of course, normally I have Pam Worth, who is one of the top female kayak anglers, on with me as a co-host. This morning she's literally out on the water, and she'll be calling in and giving us a quick report. And as I mentioned earlier, I felt it was important to find someone who is a marine biologist that can kind of explain to us from their point and their perspective what they see happening. I'm trying to stay away from politics, but it's hard not to bring politics in this because it is directly involved in this. But my point in asking this next gentleman to come on is to get a perspective from a biologist's point of view, without pointing fingers, more than trying to find out what the root of all of this is. So I believe, again, with knowledge, if we have the more knowledge that we can ascertain, the better that we can make a decision when we are presented with a resolution to this horrific disaster that's going on. I just don't think that we could discuss enough about this. Hundreds of tons of fish. I just can't get that out of my mind. Hundreds of tons of fish. So anyway, my next guest, his name is Mitchell Roffer. Mitchell has company called Fishing Oceanography. Mitchell, I believe, and he'll correct me if I'm mistaken, is a marine biologist. He has been doing it for quite some time. Good morning, Mitchell, and thank you so very much for taking the time to call in.
Good morning. Nice to hear you. I'm sorry I didn't get on early. I'm for sure will be listening to the replay later at 3 to hear what John and other people had to say. So, yes, I am a marine biologist, biological oceanographer, trained at University of Miami Rosenstiel School. So I'm been following this problem, this issue, since the 1970s all the way through now, this terrible issue that it continues to get worse.
So from your perspective, and we've had a couple of people share my opinion as well. And my opinion is the runoff that is being distributed through the estuaries to the west and the east coast, and particularly right now to the west coast, is, as the young lady mentioned, steroids. I use the same words. It's like steroids for this red tide. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely agree. But, overall, the bottom line in all this, it's been an overall lack of responsibility of corporations and municipalities and personal responsibility for allowing these nutrients and other chemicals, including pesticides and pharmaceuticals, back in our waterway. I mean, we just have not, since the beginning, the founding of our country, we've been allowing people to take their water, use it, and just dump it right back into our rivers and streams. Yeah. And when the population was low, it wasn't really a big problem. Nature could handle it. But now the population has increased to the point where these nutrients are coming in from all sorts of sources. They're coming in from cattle. They're coming in from citrus. They're coming in from sugar. They're coming in from Lake Okeechobee. They're coming in from fertilizer. They're coming in from sewage treatment plants that don't do their job in taking out all the nitrogen and other chemicals. It's from personal people dumping their They're clippings, grass clippings, using fertilizers on the lawns that leach into there, and the developers that have basically destroyed and removed the grass as well as the mangroves that clean this water. So the causes are great.
And it sounds like it's not just a straightforward answer that we're going to get with regard to the resolution.
Well, I disagree. I think it is a straight answer. People are willing to force their elected officials to act on behalf of ourselves. You know, in years past, we've allowed various groups, lobbyists, to control the spending of money in Tallahassee for monitoring the water, for making people live up to the standards, the federal and state standards, even though I consider them weak. The standards that we have that exist on the books, allowing the water to be polluted and dumped back in our waterways. That's a start. You know, if we can get them to monitor the conditions, see who's polluting, and get them to immediately stop, that's the start of ending this issue. I mean, we are fueling these naturally occurring red tide blooms, and yes, they're naturally occurring. They occur years ago, hundreds of years ago. They started on the West Florida shelf. They get moved over to the coast, and then they would be self-limiting, and then they would die out. But now, man has put in all these nutrients and like you said before, on steroids, fueling these red tides that now have spread from Tampa all the way down to the Keys and killing tons and tons of fish, which, by the way, National Marine Fisheries Service in the state of Florida is not even counting by size, frequency, and the number of species that are dying. They're bulldozing this fish up and burning them. So we're losing a great opportunity in science to see what the ecosystem had before we're now destroying it.
So we destroy the evidence, and they're out of sight, out of mind again. We're back to the out of sight, out of mind thing.
Yes, clearly out of sight, out of mind. And this is what, when they were dumping the oil in the Gulf of Mexico from the Deepwater Horizon, that was BP's idea, was to put in that and put the oil on the bottom. Yes, out of sight, out of mind.
This mentality, I just can't get this mentality. I can't wrap my mind around it. So, in your experience with all of this that is happening today, you said a word that I believe needs to be repeated over and over and over again. You said the word allowed. And I believe that people don't understand what is happening. We are allowing this to happen. And the way we are allowing this to happen is by, number one, being uneducated, being ignorant. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it as it is meant. You're not educated. When someone says that you are ignorant, it doesn't mean it as an insult. It is meant that you're not educated. We are ignorant and we are, silent. Those two things together create a gigantic void, and that void is now filled by people who no longer represent us. And this is where we must step in and do something. We just cannot continue doing this. This is just insanity.
I agree. You know, the public needs to be educated and by the right sources. You know, you listen to different releases that are coming from, different organizations that are not telling the truth. I mean, it goes from local, federal, and state levels that are just sort of cleaning this up and saying, "Oh, the problem is a federal problem for not building up the dam in Lake Okeechobee." Well, that's not true. If that water was clean coming down, it wouldn't matter. First of all, we're letting all this fresh water coming down both the east and west coast that killed the ecosystems along the estuaries and the coastal zones. I mean, just by putting in all this fresh water, just without the nutrients, it has killed the seagrasses and killed a lot of the other organisms that can't tolerate the very low salinity or non-salinity quality of the water. That's a problem in itself. Then putting any nutrients in, and clearly it's the nutrients. It's not the feds not letting, building up the dike so they can release the water or hold more water. Even if we build this reservoir south of the lake, all you're doing is filling in another cesspool. You're letting the water from Lake Okeechobee now come down to another reservoir south. And what do you think it's going to do? It's not going to clean by itself. It's got to be cleaned either mechanically by modern techniques, which is just really being developed around the world to put in machinery in this water to take out the nutrients, which is an expensive long-term process. You know, if you require people to clean the water before you put it back in, we wouldn't be in this problem. But people really need to tell their elected officials and their friends, listen, it is the nutrients. It is this water coming down. We need to stop it now, not 10 or 20 years and say, oh, this person won't let you put it down. So,
well, Mitchell, I have John Heim has called back in, and it might be interesting to have John's point of view and your point of view on at the same time. John, you've been listening to what's been going on. What's your input?
Yeah, I just kind of hopped on here, and I couldn't agree more with the gentleman speaking here. The real solution is, like he's saying, it's a simple phrase that we've been ignoring for decades and years. It's stopping pollution at its source. So you got a Lake Okeechobee full of cyanobacteria, and you're continuing to release it east and west, and even south, I might add. And the reality is, the real fix is stopping the pollution at its source. So it makes common sense to not release, a harmful bacteria to communities in the east and the west, when what you need to do is clean this water prior to you send it anywhere. And as a matter of fact, you have to redo the complete lake and clean the lake.
I spoke with a private pilot who is an acquaintance of mine this last week. He said he flew over the lake, and he said in the middle of the lake you can see a huge algae bloom just sitting there waiting to be distributed. So again, what we're talking about is not a pleasant subject. This is not really something I would like to dedicate my show to. I would love to be able to come to you and say, hey man, it's a great day to go fishing. We've got loads of fish on the West Coast. We've got loads of fish on the East Coast. Let's go fishing. We're not going to be able to do that if we continue doing what we're doing. What are we leaving our kids? What are we leaving our grandkids? This really literally brings tears to my eyes. We are killing off an entire coast, 140 miles of land. You can't even breathe this stuff anymore. It's heartbreaking. And for people to sit by silently is unacceptable to me. It's unacceptable. We must do something. And the first thing that we must do is become knowledgeable on what is going on so that we can make an educated decision. When these people present resolutions to us, and one of the resolutions is shocking to me. They want to drill a hole and bury this stuff. Again, like Mitchell said earlier, with the Gulf oil, they sprayed it with this, Corexit, I believe is what it was called. All it did is make the oil sink. So it was out of sight, out of mind. It still did the damage. The damage is still occurring to this day. We cannot continue to live on this planet. We need to live with the planet. And that's not what we've been doing. We've been living on the planet, off of the resources of the planet, not giving a hoot. I'd like to use another word, but I won't. Not giving a hoot about the resources or whether they're able to replenish themselves or not. Just constantly selfish usage of the planet. We've got to get back to conservation. And the evidence that conservation works is when we had Robert on earlier regarding the red snapper season here on this coast. We put a season in place, and now we have red snapper. At one time it was difficult, very difficult to catch these fish. Now we've got a nice resource of red snappers. We've got to get back to conservation. We've got to get educated about what's going on. And the last thing I'd like to say before I let either one of you jump back in again, our bodies are anywhere from 60 to 80% water, depending upon who you ask. When we get to the point where we're contaminating all the water around us, what do you think is happening to your body? So this is not just about politics. This is not just about water. This is about you and me on the other side of this microphone, because our bodies are made up of water.
This is Mitch, and we're watching this. We're using NOAA and European satellite data. We're watching the cyanobacteria and other algae blooms in Lake Okeechobee as well as around the state. Mosquito Lagoon has plenty of algae in it too, in the Indian River Lagoon in north central Florida, East Coast. But the amount of cyanobacteria, which is, people mention cyanobacteria. This is toxic. Not only is it toxic to the fish and crabs, it's toxic to the mammals and us. It's been related to mental disease long term. So people working and living near this cyanobacteria are breathing this in. It may not get you now, but it's like smoking cigarettes. It's going to get you later. 10 or 20 years from now, you're being damaged. And the other concept of putting this water in subsurface is just one of the worst things we could do. Not only are we hiding this water, but we're poisoning the aquifer, and we're poisoning the surface water that's going to last forever. Not just now. Once you start pumping this stuff underground, it's going to leach. We don't have solid infrastructure below our surface. It's limestone. It's porous and it leaks.
Right.
So the idea of just pumping this down, it's gone. Don't worry about it, guys. We'll deal with it later. No. When you start pumping this water out of your wells, and so many people in Florida use well water to drink. I know I do at my house in Melbourne, Florida. So, and around the coast as well. And even in municipalities, you're going to take this water. Municipalities don't remove cyanobacteria when they filter it and put it into our water supply. So we're going to be spreading this stuff not only to the east and west coast, but to South Florida as well. And, this red tide and the cyanobacteria just won't go away by waving a wand. Some of these organisms form cysts, and they sit on the bottom, and then they wait till the conditions get right again. And in 5 or 10 years, they can come bloom, and here we are again. If we don't take care of the situation now, it's going to be a problem that's going to last for a long, long time.
So, Mitchell, please hang on. I'm up against a break. John, don't go away. Please hang on. We're up against a break. When we come back, Captain Hook has a question for Mitchell. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. It's the Fish Florida Show.
You're listening to the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riskella. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Download the Fish Florida mobile app to plan your boating, fishing, or hunting trip. You can find your tide reports, buoy reports, get a fishing license, and even find someone to go fishing with. Plus great products and services from all our media partners. And oh yeah, you can get the Fish Florida Show on the app. Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern here on the WDBF radio networks. So download the Fish Florida mobile app to plan your boating, fishing, or hunting trip and tune in.
Battles aren't won solely on the field. That's a common misconception. Battles are won within, over enemies of fear, enemies of doubt. In that place where promises are kept. Promises to oneself.
This is a physical training event!
Promises to one's community.
Healthy people move debris out of their house.
Promises to one's country. In the heart of every Marine, you'll find a promise. A promise forever kept. A promise of battles won.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket. Hit ignition. And then
nothing. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Then out of nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
The rocket did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite.
Look out! Look out!
And then the pond.
I'll never forget that day.
I'll never forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer, because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
My vehicle was sent 6 feet in the air in a ball of fire. I thought I was going to die.
It ripped my arm off. It broke my right femur.
I took such a hard blow to the head that my retina was torn apart.
Say a prayer for peace.
I'm Trace Adkins. I want to tell you about these true American heroes and how you can show your thanks by helping them through Wounded Warrior Project.
They've reached out to us as a family, and they never forgot about us.
The job of helping thousands of our wounded warriors rebuild their lives is massive and growing every day. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Many of these service members suffer traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder.
They helped me basically put my life back together.
If it wasn't for Wounded Warrior Project, I would be a statistic right now. I would have been one of those soldiers who came home and committed suicide.
I'm in the fields of Vietnam, the mountains of Afghanistan.
Your gift today of $19 a month can help us provide the programs and services desperately needed by our wounded service members. Call or go online with a pledge and you'll receive this Wounded Warrior Project blanket. Make that call now.
Say a prayer for peace.
I grab my fishing pole and cast it in the water. I fish until dawn. Oh my, I caught a shark. I'm fishing in Florida when the sun shines all day. They call me a grouper. So I'm fishing in Florida. Oh yeah.
It's the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riscala Stevens, bringing the outdoors to you every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. on the WDBF Radio Network. And now, your host, Riscala Stevens.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Fish Florida Show. If you've missed any part of the show today, please remember that we do archive the shows. We also replay the show here on WDBF Radio at 3 p.m. and also at 4 a.m. For those of you who find yourself awake early in the morning, counting sheep and unable to sleep, you can always listen to the show. I'm sure it's boring enough to put you right back to sleep. And if you missed both of those times, we are archived. We are on the YouTube. We have the Fish Florida Show on YouTube, and we also have a website, fishfloridashow.com. You can find us there as well. So I want to wrap it up with Mitchell and John. And Mitchell and John, while I have both of you on at the same time, maybe we could do a show, pre-record it, and play it later on. Have a discussion, kind of a roundtable type of thing, where we can hear from both of you without such a time restraint on us right now. I've only got a couple of minutes left. So before I let you go, Mitchell, your parting comments, if you would, please, and then I'll get to John.
Party comments is it's our personal responsibility to force our elected officials and to get them to do the right thing, which means educate the public of the right information and actually take action. And plenty of action can be taken right now by starting to monitor the water in an integrated manner, informing the public where the water is dangerous to not only to the crabs and the seagrass, but to humans. Publicize this information and get the elected officials starting to act now and planning to get the proper equipment in there to keep this polluted water from going into our rivers and our lakes and our streams and coastal zones, and then taking care of this for the future. So that's my parting comment.
And before you go, Mitchell, Captain Hook has a question or two questions for you.
Yeah, real quick. I was just over in the Mosquito Lagoon area and the Indian River up north around Edgewater, and we were fishing at night. And what was incredible was the phosphorescence that were in the water. I've seen them before, where you see just trails around the porpoises and stuff like that. But this was incredible. When you went and pulled your line, when you went to catch a fish, it looked like a lightning bolt going through the water, and you could literally see the fish striking. It looked like they all had glow sticks in them when they were moved. Wow. Is this a result of this outflow?
Well, this is another naturally occurring algae. It's also toxic. That when we put too much nutrients and the water gets warm, typically mid-August to the end of August and September, it's really beautiful to see if you're not worrying about the ecosystem, but it's beautiful to see you go kayaking or boating, you put your hand in it, it's iridescent. It's like putting glow sticks on your hand. This is naturally occurring, but during August and September when the water is warm, the population's really increased. And then, of course, in recent years, it's been getting increasing in terms of its strength and its duration, and that's due to the nutrients particularly around Merritt Island, but also Mosquito Lagoon, Satellite Beach, and all these areas. Yes, it's unfortunately it's becoming a tourist industry just to take people out at night to see this. But the underlying factor, this algae also is toxic.
And then I have another question for you for one of our listeners over in New Smyrna Beach, and he said this is for you, and it said brown tide is an invasive species. How do we prevent the spread?
Yep, you're breaking up. So, but brown tide is a problem that's caused, and we're not really sure where it came from, but it came likely to come from Texas, maybe some spilled water, perhaps some oysters that we're putting in to remediate our rivers and get the oysters to grow again. But people don't realize that they need at least 90 to 180 days to clean these oyster shells. But that's, the brown tide is something that's also toxic and kills fish and other organisms, and this forms cysts and sits on the bottom of the Indian River Lagoon, Mosquito Lagoon, and when the conditions get right, it blooms. And we've had plenty of fish
it was going
in
south.
the Indian River Lagoon.
All right.
So it is a problem.
Mitchell, I want to have you back on because I think what you have to say is extremely vital to our listeners as well as to our knowledge base. So I want to thank you, first of all, for taking the time to call in. Thank you for explaining and giving us your perspective. And if you would agree with me, I'll have you back on again, and we'll go into more depth and not be so restrained on time. I wish you a wonderful day, my friend. Thank you, Mitchell.
Thank you.
John, before I let you go, one final passing thought?
Sure. My passing thought would be transparency or lack thereof. I'd like to speak about it on a level of testing. Okay, you got agencies who test this water and DEP, Healthy Beaches Program, and such like that. But we also, as a group, independently test. And what I would like to share with the viewers is our latest results from our tests from red tide right here on Fort Myers Beach. Now imagine the beginning threshold to red tide when it becomes present is about 1,000 cells per liter, okay? 1,000 cells per liter makes it known as, it's present, okay? And it climbs up the chain, of course, to where, it ranges from, everything from present to dangerous. So our results had come back, and I'd like to share with your viewers,
okay.
Our results.
Wrap it up for me, John, real quick.
Sure. Our results basically came back where 1,000 cells per liter is when it's present. Our results came back at 3 million cells per liter.
Wow.
And what they're telling you is the water's okay to go into. That is not true.
Yeah. Again, John, if you're willing, I'm going to see if I can get Mitchell, you and me, and maybe one other person on the line, and we'll do a round table. We'll record it and we'll play it. I think it's important for the people to know. Thank you so much for taking the time to call in, and most of all, thank you for being an activist. Thank you for speaking out when I know that this has affected you personally, that you have been threatened and you have been mistreated only because you have spoken out and given the truth, and I appreciate that. Thank you for that, John. I wish you a wonderful day, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. So if you've been listening, you could probably hear the one and only Pam Worth back there in the background. I could hear her paddling. She's moving around.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was on mute.
Well, so much of that, we've been spying on you, Pam.
Sorry.
You said straight.
Yeah, we're dodging a big storm. We're out pre-fishing for the IFA and doing some aerial photography. I got Matthew Mills and Ty Ross out here with me. But there's a big storm coming over Madeira Beach with lightning. Storm doesn't bother me. Lightning with graphite rods, not my fan.
Yeah. Well, make sure that you stay safe out there.
Yeah, we just hustled in. We're at the dock right now, so we can always run for our cars real quick.
Mm-hmm. So did you catch anything?
Yeah, fishing's been great. Friday, got a couple nice reds up in Upper Tampa Bay. Then I went down to South Shore, got 3 really nice reds yesterday, and today we just barely got started. I caught a little baby red and a little baby with a drum.
Wow.
But the area I was headed to look for the big reds, we had to turn around and come back. We're just not going to play around with lightning.
I don't blame you in the least bit. I don't mind the thunder, but when the proverbial electricity comes out of the sky, that bothers me.
Yeah, I can do a downpour and love it in the summer, but the lightning, nah, not a fan.
Yeah, we don't need you coming back and looking like Don King, you know.
That was a good one, Captain Hook.
Oh my goodness!
So what are you using? Your old lure, your old trusty lure there, the wood one? Is that what you're using?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Headed down to Pompano next weekend for Joe Hector's Extreme Kayak Tournament. So that should be a lot of fun.
Hot dog. Well, does that mean that you will be here in the studio?
Mm-hmm. So you can't be in your jammies. So I'll see you Sunday down there.
Well, I don't know if you were listening earlier, but I'm working the technical part of it out. But eventually, not only will we be on the radio, we will be video as well. We will be transmitting video and audio simultaneously.
Nice. So, awesome. So I have to wear makeup is what you're saying. Because I have a face for radio.
The jamming thing will be out the window. So that's something that I've got to work out yet. I've still got a couple of issues that I need to work on, but eventually I believe that we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing simulcasting on the WDBF radio network as well as I can't remember the name of it. Online services. Do you remember the name of it, Captain Hook?
It's Cloud Network TV.
Cloud Network TV, and it's part of the Brinkley Broadcasting Group, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So again,
awesome.
Again, Victoria to the rescue, so to speak. She wasn't happy just doing the app, the Fish Florida app, and then having the radio, having the radio show. No, this young lady is like the Energizer Bunny. She's going all the time. She decided to get involved in TV as well. So eventually we will be doing a TV show. And hopefully if I get everything set up the way I'd like to have it set up, we'll have some visual content behind us as well. We'll be able to show who is on the phone, and I'll be able to show that picture that I love of you holding that fish.
Yeah.
I love that picture.
The big sailfish?
Yes, I love that picture. So we'll be able to do that as well. So are you physically in the water right now? Because you said you were at the dock.
No, I'm standing on the dock. I've got my boat up on the ramp, trying to stay out of everybody's way.
Are there a lot of people out there today?
Not as many. They all left the area because of the storm. So I'm just trying to figure out if I can go back out again or if I need to put the boat up on the trailer and leave.
What does the water look like to you?
It's warm. It's almost 90 degrees. A little bit cloudy, but I have not seen anything dead. And I'm in the Madeira Beach area.
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
I haven't seen.
I'm looking at that storm, and it looks like it's moving in on you. And it looks like once it passes you, you'll be good to go.
Yeah. Now it looks like at first it looked like it was going north, headed where we were headed. Now it looks like it's headed south, like down toward the fort. But hopefully it'll just rain itself out in a hurry, and I can get back out because I definitely did not scout this area well enough. I've got the IFA in a month, the Inshore Fishing Association, and it's 100% lure. You can't use any live or cut bait. So it takes a lot of practice.
So you're out there doing what you do best, agitating the fish. You agitator, you.
Exactly. Yeah. But the nice thing about it, if I ever fish in your spot, whoever's out there listening, don't worry. I always CPR, catch, photograph, and release.
Right.
Very rarely do I keep a fish.
Yeah, I'm looking at the storm on radar, and it's blowing up here. It looks like it's getting bigger, but there's not a lot of movement to it.
Yeah, I know. We've been kind of watching it since about 7, and about the last 45 minutes, it just tripled in size, and that's when the lightning started. So
yep,
we headed in.
It's maturing.
That usually is what happens to us on this side of the state, but it doesn't usually happen until later in the afternoon when the heat off of the ground starts to rise and the humidity blows in off of the ocean and the two of them mix, and then we get the end of the world as we know it.
Well, I like when the winds are coming from your way, out of the east. It's easier for me. But when they come out of the west, that's when we get those big thunder clouds, rolling on shore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the water being 90 degrees, my goodness. So I imagine you're fit, and I know that you like to do top water stuff, but at 90 degrees, are you at the top or are you down?
I did a little top water, had a couple strikes. The downside about doing the top water today is there's a lot of, because of all the rain we've had, it tends, and this is a natural, it's nothing bad, but it tends to kill off some of the grass, the seagrass, because it gets so much fresh water in there, and the winds and everything tear it up. So there's a lot of floating debris, which makes top water next to impossible. So I use a Z-Man on a owner's worm hook or weedless hook, and that way it gives me kind of the same action as the top water, but I can get it through the weeds without getting a lot of tangles in it.
So how far below the surface are you?
Well, we're fishing pretty skinny, so I would say we're fishing in water that's 4 feet or less deep. So so that's where you're going to target your reds. We've got a couple of nice snook today too. But that's kind of where I'm targeting. I'm not deep. I was thinking about going out in the channel and see if there's some big schoolie reds, jigging for big schoolie reds, but definitely not with this storm coming.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to call in, and I miss you, so I will see you next weekend, right? You got it. Next Sunday I'll be there. Hot dog. Well, be safe out there, and I'll be excited to hear about the fishing report next weekend, what you run into over the week. And we'll talk to you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Fish Florida Show. We are up against the break. Don't go away.
You're listening to the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riskella. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Do you own a laser printer, copier, or a fax? Well then, listen close to this announcement. Laser Technologies has been providing high-quality, frustration-free toner cartridges that are guaranteed not to harm your equipment for over 20 years. Laser Technologies will save you on your supplies with high-quality and fast delivery. Savings up to 50%. Laser Technologies supplies toner, imaging drums, developer, and cartridges for most of the major brands. For a price quote, send an email to service@laser-technologies.com. Include your printer make and model for your part number. Call us at 561-792-9600. That's 561-792-9600. Laser Technologies, providing 100% of the quality at a fraction of the price. 561-792-9600.
Hi folks, I'm Roger from Rogers Gotcha Motoring. If you need a local auto repair shop, Rogers Gotcha Motoring will take care of all of your automotive repair needs. If you need something as simple as an oil change or as complex as an engine overhaul, I have the latest in technology and the knowledge to get the job done right. We've been servicing Pinellas County since 1994 and are conveniently located at 3700 5th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. If you need service, call now at 727-327-1830 or visit my website at www.rogersgotchamotoring.com or like my Facebook page at Rogers Gotcha Motoring for a complete list of all of our services. So come on over to Rogers, that's me, and get your car service today. And don't forget to shop and support local business. Call now to book your appointment at 727-327-1830. That's 727-327-1830, or swing on by.
Que Pasa Mexican Cantina is where friends and neighbors come to connect, share, and celebrate one another in a festive, casual atmosphere. Offering rich, robust flavors of authentic Mexican cuisine, we use only the freshest, finest ingredients. We chop and dice, season and blend, and then cook everything we serve to perfection. One thing that makes Mexican food even better is one of our delicious Best of the Bay margaritas. Our signature series of margarita flavors range from our sweet and fruity mango and strawberry to our hot and juicy jalapeno margarita. Having a busy meeting cooking or getting together and looking for Mexican food? Try our Fast Fax form. It's an easy, fast way to order your favorite Mexican food. We have special platters and layouts for any occasion. The form is super easy to fill out, fax, email, or just call it in. Whether it's here in the restaurant, in your home or office, at Que Pasa we celebrate bringing people together. Que Pasa Mexican Cantina, 10478 Roosevelt Boulevard North Street in the Gateway Shopping Center, 727-330-3663 in St. Petersburg. It's the Fish Florida Show with your host, Riscala Stevens, bringing the outdoors to you every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. on the WDBF Radio Network. And now, your host, Riscala Stevens.
Okay, we are back at the Fish Florida Show. If you've missed any part of the show, you can always listen to the show again. It will be replayed at 3 p.m. as well as 4 a.m. for those of you who can't sleep. And if you miss both of those times, you can always go to the archives. We do have archives set up. It's fishfloridashow.com. And archives set up on the YouTube channel as well, which is Fish Florida Show on YouTube. And you can listen to your heart's content. Typically, the shows are put up within a couple of days into the archives, and the information remains there for you to listen to whatever time you want, whenever you want. Normally, I have Pam Worth with me as a co-host. Pam is literally out on the water. If you've just tuned in, she was just on with us just a brief moment ago, telling us about what's going on where she's at. She's having a good time out there on the water. I could hear her paddling. And so this morning I have, as always, in the background the Captain Hook, who takes care of all of the good stuff for me back there in the background. I'm ever so grateful for. Good morning, Captain Hook, and thank you for stepping in and helping on the show this morning. Greatly appreciate it, sir.
My pleasure. Doing double duty today. Got me hopping over here. We had a lot of calls coming in over here.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're coming into you.
Well, we'll see, but at least we got a lot of interest. A lot of people were sending me questions to ask the marine biologist guy, and it was kind of interesting. So, what can you do? You know,
I'm going to get with him and John and another individual who I was just given the name of. I don't know if I'll be able to get through to him or not, but see if I can get 3 or 4 of us on the line, do like a round table, and maybe pre-record a show, maybe even dedicate an entire show. I don't even think 2 hours is enough to discuss what's going on. It's just horrific, really, and people should be very well educated about what's going on because they're using our ignorance to their benefit. And when I say them, the corporations. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm telling you, it's the corporations, because they're all worried about their bottom line, and I don't personally know that it's the governor, quote, the governor himself, but I know the government plays a big part of it. I know that this particular governor has done away with some things that were previously in place to help protect the water. He did away with that. So there's some things that we need to know about. There's some things that we need to do. And the first thing is, in my opinion, is to become knowledgeable about what's going on. So maybe we'll do a whole show on it. Maybe we'll spend a whole 2 hours on discussing what's going on. Because as much as I love fishing, if there's no fish left, what are we going to do? Yeah. And they're dying off in masses on the West Coast. Hundreds of tons. That's not an exaggeration, ladies and gentlemen. That's a fact. Hundreds of tons. Can you imagine? Hundreds of tons of fish being washed off the shore. And I don't know how often that was, but the last count was over 300 tons of fish. Over 300 tons that have been cleaned up. Manatees, turtles. It's not a subject that I really want to talk about, but it's our lives. It's reality. If you can't go through life and not look at reality. It just doesn't work that way. And I believe what has happened to us here in South Florida is that we've looked the other way. We've been busy with our lives, helping our families and doing whatever. And these people that we rely on to do the right thing have not done the right thing. And now it's come back to bite us in the proverbial behind.
Yeah, and there's also, I really believe there's almost too many people. There's 1,000 people a day move into Florida. And it's becoming so overpopulated that our natural resources just can't take care of them.
We must, I think Mitchell said, personal responsibility. It starts with each one of us personally and then moves out from that point. We are the hub, personal responsibility, and then holding other people responsible for what they're doing. Anyway, I want to get on to a little brighter subject because we may literally devote a whole show to this because it is a very vital subject to speak about. And 15 or 20 minutes is really not doing it justice. Anyway, we have one of them, either Kyle or Andy. Kyle or Andy, which one have I got?
Good morning. You got Andy this morning.
Good morning, Andy. Thank you so much for calling in.
You have had quite a lively discussion going on here this morning there about all this stuff.
Yep.
Holy cow. But, I'm with Dockside Fuel down here in Key Largo, Florida.
And Dockside Fuel, for those of you who have never heard of Dockside Fuel, they are the guys that all you have to do literally, once you get set up with them, literally all you have to do is give them a phone call. Andy, Kyle, come on down, fuel me up, and you're done. How sweet is that?
It's easy. It's quick. You don't have to wait on any lines at the marina. We're cheaper than almost every single marina out there. And the best part is it's no hassle for you. Just give us a call. We fuel you up when the boat's sitting at the dock and it's ready to go and you're ready to go out fishing or diving or whatever it is. As soon as you're ready. So we try and make it as easy as we can for everybody.
Hey, what's it looking like down there right now?
A little breezy. The wind's picked up the last couple of days, so getting offshore has been a little bit tough. People are still doing it, but they're working a little bit at it, and it's a little bit choppy out there. But people are moving their boats around. Schools are getting back into session, so people are starting to change for the fall season now. And things are changing just a little bit. Not quite as many summer people here.
And what any reports regarding fishing going on?
Well, we've heard a couple of things. The people that have gotten out for dolphin, there are definitely dolphin out there. Believe it or not, there's been small schoolies out there, which this time of year, you don't really hear of small schoolies.
Wow.
But we've heard of big schools of small schoolies.
Wow.
And finding bigger ones has been difficult, but people are catching them. But not as many big dolphin, which this time of year, the big dolphin are usually in. But, we've heard of people just getting legal and just bigger sizes. But like I said, this past week's been rough. So getting out there's been a little bit challenging if you're going out,
And today from up here in West Palm, they're calling for about 2 feet or less. I don't know if that's I haven't checked, but as of this morning, they were calling about 5 to 7 miles per hour, 2 feet or less. So what are you seeing down there? It's 2 to 4.
Yeah, the wind is blowing here this morning. I don't know what the seas are yet. We filled up a couple people this morning, but I haven't heard any reports of what this morning brought. But I know the last couple of days the wind is up, and of course it takes a little bit of time for the seas to calm down.
Yeah.
But the winds have been up the last few days, 3 or 4 days really.
I'm looking at the radar. It looks relatively clear. Is it relatively clear where you're at?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely beautiful. Just a little breezy, but absolutely gorgeous. Sun's out. Like I said, we've been out fueling this morning already, and it's been nice. It's cool because there's a little breeze, and it's just a beautiful day down here. So there's still stuff you can do. There's always stuff you can do in the water down here in the Keys. So come on down and bring your boat. Give us a call, and we'll fuel you up.
Yeah, there you go. It's just a phone call away, and many times I don't want to hold him to it, but many times they can get to you within hours. If they're not really tied up, they can be able to get to you within hours, and typically it's within 24 hours. Is that correct, Andy?
Yeah, we can usually get to within 24 hours. The upper Keys were a little bit better about getting you the same day. We can't always get you the same day, but many, many times. When you start talking the lower Keys, it's a little bit more of a challenge because we're not down in the lower Keys every single day. But the upper Keys, Isla Brada and North, many times we can get you the same day, if not the next day, for sure. So just give us a call. We'll take care of you. But we try and get everybody fueled, whenever they call, we try and get to them as quick as we can.
The thing I enjoy about Dockside Fuel Service is that it's a family-run company. Anybody who knows anything about me knows that. And anytime I run into a small family-owned company, I love that kind of thing. That's what this country was built on. Small, independently owned, family-run companies. They're the people who are going to treat you the best because you literally are their income. These people can deliver fuel to you within about 200 feet. So if you've got access within 200 feet of your vessel and you can purchase 50 gallons, well, wait a minute, Riscala, I can't purchase 50 gallons. Well, what about you and your neighbor getting together? You buying 25 and them buying 25. 'cause they'll do that for you as well. As long as it's in the same area right there, they'll do that for you as well. So they're easy to get along with, family-owned business, phone call away. I mean, you can't make it much easier than that.
No, we really try and make it as convenient as we can for everybody. We accept cash, credit cards, checks, anytime, everything works for us. You know, if you can't be there, we bill people or they give us their credit card. But like I said, we really have tried to make it as convenient as we can for people to keep them filled up and to get customers and keep them happy.
You know, with it being rough and everything, any word on reef? Anything happening on it? Have you heard anything feedback about reef action?
I have not heard fishing. We haven't had anybody report fishing. I've had people still out there lobstering though. They're killing the lobster. This has probably been the best year for lobster that I've seen in a bunch of years.
Wow.
But, we've had a couple of lobster reports, and people are just, if you got spots, some spots you may go to, and there's very few lobster, but other spots you go to, and you get your limit off of one spot.
Wow.
They had the commercial guys had a very short season last year due to the hurricane, so all these lobster have been able to grow and reproduce, and we're left and right. We're just hearing people going out lobstering and just doing great. I haven't heard, like I said, I haven't heard fishing reports on the reef this past week. We really haven't gotten much, but we have gotten some lobster reports, and I've got some nice pictures that people have sent me of just like piles of lobsters. A bunch of people going out and just getting a bunch of them.
That's what I like to hear, because I honestly believe that this planet has an abundance of everything. If we'll just be responsible about how we deal with it, there is an abundance of everything on this planet. You just have to be responsible. It's just that simple. So when I hear reports of stuff like that really makes me feel good. Well, I appreciate it, Andy. Again, it's Andy Sikora with Dockside Fuel Service. I think you have a website as well, right?
Yep, we have a website, www.dockside-fuel.com. You can learn about us. You can actually make an appointment right online through the website, or you can give us a call, 305-923-6509, call or text, and we'll get you lined up, we'll get you on the schedule, and get you all fueled up and ready to go.
Andy, I greatly appreciate it, my friend. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to having you back on again here soon.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the time, and have a great day.
God bless. That's Andy Sikora with Dockside Fuel Service. The last couple of minutes here, Captain Hook, what do you think of the overall conversation today with Mitchell and John Hein? You think it would be worthwhile to have a show to do there?
I think so. I think there was a lot of interest from our listeners out there, and yeah, I think so. But we'd have to dedicate it. And then also I'd like to get a couple politicians that come in, some of the state representatives, maybe Brian Mast or somebody like that. Now, some of that we might have to record and put together. But, of course, you know, I mean, it's a very important subject, especially what a large area that this is affecting. And so, you know, it's not good. It is really not good.
140, you know, this is what I have such a difficult time with. 140 miles was the last count. 140 miles of coastline that have been affected.
Right.
Over 300 tons of fish. We're not even including the mammals, the manatees, the turtles, the dolphin, the whale sharks. Those aren't even included in that number, and there's numerous reports of these mammals dying. They're dying in the canals because it's become so toxic in the canals.
There's another thing I wanted to bring up real quick, and I meant to mention this to the biologist. There is a professor over here at the University of South Florida. His name's John Paul, and he is working on a device that you put in the water, and it's got little tiny buoys, and you put it in the water, and it will detect red tide ahead of the red tide. And if they come up with that, then they can realize what's going on here, and possibly when it comes time, like for this perfect storm to happen, and they start releasing the nutrients out of Lake Okeechobee, and they see the red tide coming, they'll say, whoa, we got to go a different direction here. But that's what happened. True. Yeah. You know, I mean, and they get some sort of advance warning before the red tide comes, and then a little bit more preparation.
We certainly can't continue doing whatever it is that we've been doing because that hasn't been working. And to me, it will literally bring tears to my eyes because I have children, I have grandchildren. We play the commercial about being a foster parent. I was a foster parent for the state of Florida. And I'm not patting myself on the back. These are facts. I was a foster parent for the state of Florida for, 8 years, 10 years. I adopted 7 children. My passion is kids. I have grandkids. I have children. What are we leaving them? What is it? How irresponsible are we as adults to take the environment that we live in and leave it in a worse condition than it was before we came? Right. That's just something that has always been near to my heart. We've got to do better. Years ago, I was involved in the plastics industry. The plastics is a really cool stuff, man. You can do all kinds of neat things with plastic, and if you don't like it, you can grind it down and you can reform it. Almost kind of sort of oversimplification, but almost kind of sort of like wax. But the problem with plastic is that because it is a petroleum-based product, it never degrades properly. It doesn't break down properly. Now we have hundreds of tons of plastic floating around in our oceans, and they estimate by the year 2050 there'll be more plastic in the ocean than there are fish. Yep. We got to be more responsible, my friends.
Hey, bro, we are.
But in order to do that, we got to become knowledgeable.
We are out of time and out of here.
Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week.